I was talking to a group of people tonight, and I got done talking to them, and I walked away, and I was like, "Why are you so socially awkward?" Talking to myself.
Yes.
Yes.
I wouldn't think that of you.
A big group of people saying happy birthday to me that I was not expecting. And rather than thanking them, I made fun of the person who like started it and was like, "You're fired," and just moved on with it. And so I was, it was a whole thing.
Did you just nod?
It's like, I don't know what to do now, which nobody knows what to do. When anybody sings happy birthday to you, do you look people in the eye? Do you look, I don't know what to do. What do you do?
Oh, I look down.
Yeah, I absolutely, I
like
feel,
I was like, oh yeah, no, I do.
For some reason, I'm full of shame in that moment. I don't know what to do when people sing happy birthday to me. All right, so we're...
Welcome back. Money Keeps Talking.
Yeah, we're doing Money Talks part 2. And so...
Because we love talking about money.
And like we said last week, who could be better to teach you about money than Andrea
like,
and Brian Rank?
Who could teach you what not to do?
Yeah, we can do that for sure.
We could do points like that.
So last week we talked a little bit about like, man, why is it so hard to talk about that type of thing? Today we're going to kind of continue that conversation and talk about what were some barriers or have been, not just were in the past, but even continue today to be barriers for us. And then some places that we've seen success and some things that have worked for us. So.
And our hope is that our story encourages, I guess. It's one thing when you start talking about your story in private and then you're like, well, maybe this will resonate or hopefully encourage you.
Yeah, and we don't have all the answers, but we can tell you where we've messed it up.
Yeah,
so.
we're a work in progress.
Yeah. So one of the barriers for us we talked about was like our mindset in talking about money. Like I always felt like if we talked about money a lot or we jumped into doing a budget, then it's going to be so restrictive and we're not going to be able to have any fun. And so like that was a big thing for me. I don't know. Did you ever feel that or not necessarily?
I don't know if I felt like it was too restrictive. I think for me it was just more like I don't want to love money, so I shouldn't talk about money.
Yeah, that's right.
So that was more of mine of like, I don't want money to be a huge topic of conversation because then I might love it.
And that Timothy verse of just like the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, right? And so you're just like, well, I
remember you saying something a long time, like I think you had a fear of money and wealth in a sense too of that, because I could have sworn you said something. I'm like, oh yeah, we should never have money.
We should live a life of poverty.
We should never have money.
St. Francis of Assisi, sell everything that you have and just live as a pauper. Maybe that's what we should do. We almost did that. We didn't try to. We didn't mean to, but we've almost been there.
We've learned to be without.
Yeah, so certainly mindset's been an issue, and that's been something that's restricted us.
Yeah.
Second thing was it's been hard for us to be on the same page.
This could take us back to first year of marriage.
Yeah, you want to talk about that a little bit?
I came from like just really keeping track. This was in the day where you had to write down, you wrote a check out and then you went to your balance
You had to balance your checkbook.
Your checkbook, yeah. I was like, what was that called? Oh, a checkbook.
I also came from that too. My family also did that.
But did you do it personally?
I meant to do it.
Who did it for you?
I mean, but I didn't. I mean, I meant to.
Okay.
But yes, you absolutely were doing it and got really frustrated, right?
Yes. So it was like, hey, I'm going to keep track of our checking account. I need your receipts.
I don't want to give you my receipts. I only went to Culver's 3 times this week.
And so they never balanced. And I was like, I don't know how to. And so earlier on in our marriage, it was one of those, like, I don't think we didn't figure out how to communicate well about our spending, about our systems, and I think we both, I'm going to say we both gave up on talking about it.
For sure. I was scared to talk about it because you would get angry or cry. This is what I thought. That's maybe not necessarily, I'm sure that's what happened a bit in the beginning, but I was just like, well, that's
out of frustration.
Yes. I would also probably cry. I'm not above crying. So I certainly didn't want to do that. But yeah, we both kind of were just like, well, you were like, you stepped
Screw
away.
this.
Yes, you stepped away and you were like, you do the money. Yeah, so she washed her hands of it and put it in the hands of somebody who is completely inept at
Which
managing
was not
money.
wise.
Yeah, that was a terrible decision on her part. But it has taken us a long time, and we'll get to that in a little bit, of getting on the same page. But that was, for
Definitely
sure,
a
we were
barrier.
in different spots. Yeah, what's the third one?
The third one is just the managing impulses and emotions. I remember just in a season 2, I thought, I'm like, oh, well, I'm just going to go get a coffee. I remember thinking it was my spa. I don't spend money
Yeah.
on spas, but, or getting my nails done, so I can justify getting a coffee, even probably when that was not in the budget, and who knows how much I was spending on a coffee.
You might have been spending, but you have never been a huge spender.
So that was okay.
It was okay in a sense, because it's not like you were overspending, but I understand what you're saying.
That's the idea.
Yeah, how do we manage those impulses?
We're like, we really want to take the family on vacation.
Yeah, how do we save?
Let's not, and we
let's
would
not go out to eat a million
save,
times.
but
Yeah, but I mean, for me, like, managing impulses would be like managing, Brian, go home and make a peanut butter and jelly for lunch. Don't go to Jimmy John's, right, or something, which is 300% more than what you're paying for PB&J or something. So that's a real thing. Like, and I think for me, as you're young, you see everybody else who's made it, and you're like, oh, I'm entitled to that too. Why can't I have a Jimmy John's sub? Like all the rich people.
Thought of that being an entitlement.
Those
Look
rich
at all
people eat Jimmy John's.
Jersey Mike's.
That is for rich people. It's like a foot-long Jersey Mike's is like $30 now, or something. Yeah. So
we think different thoughts.
Yes. So mindset, being on the same page, and like managing our impulses, those have all been barriers for us. What are some things now, 26 years in, that have worked for us? Not that they've worked perfectly, but they've worked.
Well, I think like the first one, just going back to the barrier, is literally just changing our mindset. And I think even in the last 2 years, really thinking about how we can use our money to invest in eternity. And I think that's helped me change my mind around what money can be used for. So what about you? What have you had to change with your mindset about money?
It really has been, like, probably the biggest thing for me has been controlling my impulses and not just that instant gratification. So that's always what, like, buying food and like lunches and dinners and stuff, it's that instant gratification. It's that's probably the biggest thing for me. And then I do think being patient enough to see success. I've just never been patient enough to see it, so I'm just like, I just want to do it. And so that's been a mindset change for sure, and that's helped a bit. We started doing money dates a couple years ago. How did those go, and how have they been going?
Well, they were rough to start.
True, I agree. Not the best dates,
but needed dates. That's something I think you and I are working on, how to have conversations. So, and we talked a little bit about this, I think, in the last video too, where when you know you're having talk about money, that has, I mean, it's helped in the sense of you kind of know, okay, I'm going to get my mindset ready, instead of, so I have something to tell you, and it's like a shock or something.
We had like specific, we had set some like specific, like Monday nights were going to be our nights to talk about money. We even were like, let's have some ice cream while we talk about it, so it's not just, feels like you're going to a funeral.
And then we've had some times too where we go out, if we go out, we'll connect or ask about money, like where we're at. Like I know every month, just to check in about the monthly budget.
So budgeting, and so budgeting has been a thing for us, and we've gotten better at it. It's taken a long time. I think the next thing we're going to talk about is even just tracking our spending has been super helpful. We started using the Rocket Money app not too long ago, actually, with that. But even before that, we'd kind of made a spreadsheet or used one from the Seed Time Money podcast.
Did we ever use Quicken? That was
early,
okay.
but I mean,
Mint or something.
Yeah, that's right.
We've tried many different
Mint
things.
no longer exists, and so, but some of those, like we just had a spreadsheet, and it was helpful. I think it was actually the Seed Time Money podcast where he said, "Hey, write a number down that you think you spend per month on X, whatever it is, and then at the end of the month, look back and see what it was." And people almost always like undershoot what they think they're spending. They spend much more. And so I think that first month of seeing that was just like, oh crap, like I thought that'd be like $45. It's $200 or something.
Yeah.
So even that tracking spending, like that made it reality for me. That's been a big deal.
Yeah. And even for me too, I think it's just been nice to see something that is kind of in time, like happening right now, because that's what the balancing your checkbook would be, is like you would see things in like, oh, I know exactly in real time what's happening. And so this way, when you have two people and everything's now digital, it's such a great way to kind of keep track. I remember, oh golly, this was at the very beginning, right? With envelopes, like in the cupboard, we would try envelopes, like real envelopes
with
cash and for different
groceries
categories, right?
We struggled with that.
Oh my gosh. And then I just thought, we're horrible Christians. We're horrible finance people because we can't get this under control. And that's what everybody says you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that. It was hard.
Yeah, that has been hard. And I think we overcomplicated it early. I think we've done a good job of simplifying it, of like, hey, and so we do kind of a form of envelopes, but it's electronic, but we do use that
also
idea.
Figuring it out, like how it works for you and I, as a, you can read a book and you can get these great ideas from books and other people, but it's not until you try it, it's either going to work for you great. It's kind of like parenting. When you read books about parenting, it's like, oh, you put the baby to sleep. It's like clockwork. And then you're like, okay, it works for one person, but it may not work for another. And so that, I think, has been also...
There's a million different ways to do this well. You just have to do it. It's like a diet. Every diet works if you do it.
If you do it. Yeah.
If you do any of them, they'll all work. Like tracking spending, like budgeting, like there's a number of different ways to do it. All of them work if you do it. So.
And I thought we started the spreadsheet too. I thought
that
was really
helped.
helpful for me. It felt like I was going back to the olden days and writing things down.
Right. And then the last thing for us, we did we've set up some different accounts through one of our online banks and use those different accounts to do some spending and save in. And so like we set up some accounts for, so my brother is a cattle rancher, and so he sells sides of beef. And so we'd get one at the end of every year, right? But that cost a good amount of money. And then a year ago, for the first time, like for a year, we put $50 in that thing and that account, and we had a separate account for that. December came around, it was time to get that, and we had cash to pay it. That was amazing, and that is so like simple. I'm sure a million of all of you have done that, and we were just like, this is amazing. When you put money aside, you can pay cash. What? Just blew our mind.
How many of you are just watching going,
you're like, oh, you poor kids. Be better. Rocks, be better. So anyway, hopefully some of those are helpful. Did you want to share a Bible verse?
I think,
I think so.
I think so.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for asking.
One of the Bible verses that we'd like to leave with you is from Luke 14, verse 28. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? And I mean, it's so obvious, isn't it? And I don't know why, for how many years...
Suppose you want to buy a side of beef. Won't you first sit down and see how much it costs?
We just skipped this verse for years.
I'm not sure this is actually in the Bible. This is brand new information.
So, just, so wise. just to plan
Yep.
ahead or to
Plan ahead, people.
But I think for us, the biggest thing is just
Yeah.
don't be afraid to talk about it, and
Yeah.
don't be afraid to sit down, have that bowl of ice cream, and just strangely like find some humor. I mean, we can now laugh at it. God is so good. He has provided.
Hard. It's been really hard.
It has been hard, but also like you look at how we've grown in all of it too, and we can only say thank you, Lord. So
So.
And we're still growing, and we're still learning.
We're gonna screw this up again.
And I
promise.
think that's also okay for everybody to know, because I think we all see the end or just the good in it, like all the successes, and it's like, okay, well, some of us struggle.
Don't be afraid to have a conversation about it and deal with reality. Like, it's reality. Like, I think those two things. Somebody had told us that a long time ago. Like, have a conversation and deal with reality. We'll figure it out.
So, money talks again.
Money Talks Part 2. You're welcome, America.